Welcome back to the channel Coins History US, the home of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable American coin history. Stop scrolling right now. What if I told you that a simple Jefferson nickel, a coin most people ignore or spend every day, could be worth up to $19 million? Yes, a tiny 5-cent coin that could change your life forever. Today, we're revealing the top 10 most valuable Jefferson nickels ever discovered, coins so rare that collectors, museums, and private buyers are willing to pay millions just to own one. Some of these nickels were struck by mistake, some survived wars, and others were hidden in pockets for decades before their true value was revealed.
Have you ever wondered how a simple 5-cent coin could hold a hidden story of American pride, minting evolution, and collector's treasure? All at once, the 1992 Jefferson Nickel may look like just another everyday coin, but behind its familiar face lies a tale of craftsmanship, design perfection, and the enduring spirit of a nation that honors its heroes through metal. Today we uncover everything from the minting secrets to the rarest varieties, from market values to the subtle details that can make one nickel worth thousands. Get ready to travel through time and learn the full legacy of the 1992 Jefferson Nickel, because this is not just a coin, it's a piece of living American history. The year was 1992, a time of change in American coinage. When precision technology met traditional craftsmanship, the Jefferson Nickel remained a key part of the U.S. Mint's legacy, first introduced in 1938 to honor the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag. This 5-cent piece became one of the longest-running coin series in American history. The 1992 issue carried forward this legacy, with a quiet strength maintaining the classical design elements that had represented Jeffersonian ideals for over half a century yet. Within this particular year, there were subtle transitions in minting practices and collector trends that made the 1992 Jefferson Nickel a point of interest for both historians and numismatists. The obverse of the coin still displayed, the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year 1992. Jefferson's image retained the same dignified profile that had been originally sculpted by Schlag, though years of dyewear and minor adjustments to engraving details had softened and reshaped certain contours. By the early 1990s, the Philadelphia and Denver mints continued producing circulation nickels using the same copper-nickel alloy, a composition that had been stable since 1946, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The coin measured 21.2 millimeters in diameter and weighed 5 grams. It was non-magnetic and featured a plain edge. The reverse design continued to showcase Jefferson's home, Monticello, with the inscriptions E pluribus unum, Monticello 5 cents, and United States of America. Production of the 1992 Jefferson Nickel was handled by two primary mints, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. While the San Francisco Mint produced proof issues for collectors, the Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, while Denver issues displayed the small D mint mark placed to the right of Monticello, below the E in pluribus, and the San Francisco proofs carried the S mint mark in the same location. The mintage totals were relatively high, with Philadelphia producing over 600 million nickels and Denver striking around 500 million. The San Francisco Mint struck roughly 3 million proof coins. These proof coins were made with specially prepared dies, polished planchets, and multiple strikes to achieve sharp mirrored finishes, making them highly desirable among collectors. What makes the 1992 Jefferson Nickel special is not merely its production numbers, but its place in the timeline of minting technology. During this period, the U.S. Mint was preparing for gradual design refinements and die-making improvements that would culminate in later changes of the late 1990s. While 1992 nickels did not feature a dramatic design alteration, the precision of die hubs and improvements in metal preparation led to better strike quality and sharper detail than in many earlier years. Collectors often note that full steps on the Monticello design indicate a superior strike, and these full step examples are highly sought after. In the 1992 series, a Jefferson nickel with 5 or 6 full steps visible on Monticello's baselines can dramatically increase in value because it represents near-perfect die alignment and strong striking pressure. Examples graded Mint State 65 with full steps can command impressive prices compared to average circulated pieces. The proof nickels from San Francisco stand out for their brilliance. Each was struck on carefully polished blanks under high pressure and handled with gloves to prevent blemishes. The resulting coins exhibit deep cameo contrasts between the frosted design and mirror-like fields. 1992, proof nickels often showcase strong detail in Jefferson's hair and Monticello's columns, and many remain preserved in pristine condition in original. Mint packaging, however, small varieties exist even among proofs. Minor differences in die polish or strike quality have led to collectors identifying cameo and deep cameo subtypes. The deep cameo examples tend to bring higher premiums due to their visual impact and limited population errors, and varieties in the 1992 Jefferson Nickel series provide another layer of fascination. Off-center strikes, double dies, and die cracks are occasionally found, though not as common as in some earlier years. One noteworthy variety to look for is the 1992 D over D repunched mint mark, in which the D mint mark was impressed twice at slightly differing angles. These coins can fetch several times their face value depending on condition. Other minor anomalies include weak strikes from worn dies or planche imperfections, but most of these carry small premiums unless visually striking the full steps. Variety remains the most famous collectible feature for this year, and grading services like PCGS and NGC often highlight FS designations in their certification labels. From a historical standpoint, the 1992 Jefferson Nickel reflects stability and continuity in American coinage at a time when the nation was transitioning through economic recovery and technological advancement. The mint maintained high output levels while improving quality control systems. Coinage in the early 1990s became more consistent in weight tolerance and metal uniformity. This reliability was crucial for automated coin handling and vending systems that depended on exact metallic composition. The Jefferson Nickel's enduring design served as a bridge between the classical era of numismatic artistry and the modern age of mechanized production for collectors. The 1992 nickel offers a fascinating study in condition rarity. While hundreds of millions were minted, only a small fraction remain in pristine, uncirculated states, and even fewer qualify for full steps designations. Coins stored in rolls or mint sets often retained luster and sharpness, while those in circulation quickly developed wear on Jefferson's cheek and hair, as well as flattening on Monticello's steps. This makes high-grade examples particularly appealing to those assembling. Registry sets condition becomes everything in such collections, where MS-67 or better examples are rare and can reach significant market values, especially when paired with a full steps attribution. Looking deeper into the cultural meaning of this coin, it represents a continuity of American values. Jefferson was chosen for the nickel not just because of his presidential role, but for his embodiment of Enlightenment principles, democracy, education, and architecture. The Monticello design is not just a building. It is a symbol of reason, structure, and national identity. Every 1992 nickel thus serves as a miniature monument to these ideals, silently passing through the hands of millions, yet preserving history in its form. The 1992 Jefferson Nickel also connects to the evolution of die engraving technology. During this time, the mint had been transitioning from traditional hand-engraved master dies toward computer-assisted hubbing, though full digital design implementation was still a few years away. These intermediate steps allowed for finer replication of original details. This technological refinement is why many 1992 nickels have a sharper appearance than their counterparts from the 1980s. Even minor differences like the clarity of lettering or the distinct outline of Jefferson's jawline reflect the precision made possible by these advancements. Economically, the coin's face value remained unchanged at 5 cents, but in numismatic markets, its collector value depends heavily on condition, rarity, and grading demand. Circulated examples are easily found in pocket change, while uncirculated and proof versions, especially those with full steps or cameo finishes, attract specialized interest. Coin dealers often report that the 1992 Jefferson Nickel marks the beginning of a renewed focus among collectors on modern-era nickels as the mint prepared for upcoming design transitions that would eventually culminate in the Westward Journey series decades later. The close of 1992, the Jefferson Nickel had completed over 50 years of continuous production, maintaining one of the most stable designs in U.S. coinage history. It survived through war, economic shifts, and multiple minting technologies, symbolizing resilience. The 1992 issue in particular stands as a testament to precision, consistency, and the subtle beauty of American coin design. When viewed under magnification, each line on Monticello, each curve of Jefferson's portrait speaks to the enduring dedication of the engravers and mint workers who carried forward Schlag's original vision with pride and craftsmanship. For collectors and historians alike, studying the 1992 Jefferson Nickel offers not only a glimpse into American numismatic art but also an understanding of how even ordinary coins reflect extraordinary dedication. It is this blend of history, artistry, and technical mastery that continues to make the 1992 Jefferson Nickel a coin worth exploring, preserving, and admiring. And as long as it continues to circulate or rest in the careful hands of collectors, it will keep telling the story of a nation's journey through metal and memory generation after generation. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and felt the weight of history pressed into its surface, a simple nickel that silently tells stories of America's struggle, its innovation, and its promise? The 1968 Jefferson Nickel is not just a small piece of metal. It is a witness to a transformative decade in American history, a time of social change, space exploration, and numismatic evolution. This coin carries the marks of craftsmanship, politics, and precision that reflect the heart of the nation. As it entered a new era, welcome to the story of the 1968 Jefferson Nickel, a story of transition, innovation, and subtle rarity that continues to fascinate collectors and historians around the world. The 1968 Jefferson Nickel emerged in a defining moment for American coinage following the great coinage changes of the 1960s when silver was removed from most circulating coins, and the U.S. Mint faced a massive demand for coins amid population growth and industrial expansion. The Jefferson Nickel had already been a staple in American pockets since 1938 when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Its design, created by sculptor Felix Schlag, honored the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, whose Monticello home stood as a symbol of intellect, democracy, and architecture. By 1968, the Jefferson Nickel had seen its fair share of adjustments. But that year marked one of the most significant transitions in minting history, because it was the year when mint marks returned to United States coinage after a 3-year absence in 1965. The U.S. Mint had removed mint marks from coins in an effort to discourage the hoarding and collecting that was causing a national coin shortage. By 1968, the Mint decided to restore those marks, but in a new location for the Jefferson Nickel, the mint mark moved from the right side of Monticello on the reverse to the obverse, just to the right of Jefferson's portrait. This single change gives the 1968 nickel a unique place in the timeline of American coin design. It was not just a technical adjustment, but a reflection of renewed public trust in the coinage system and the Mint's confidence that coins would again flow freely into circulation. The 1968 Jefferson nickels were struck at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with the San Francisco Mint producing proof coins. Only each mint had its own story of production challenges and innovations. The Philadelphia Mint struck the largest quantity without any mint mark, following the long tradition of its plain coins, while the Denver Mint, identified by its small d mark, produced circulation strikes that would fill the pockets of millions across the country. The San Francisco Mint, however, focused exclusively on proof coins intended for collectors. Each proof coin was a mirror-like masterpiece, carefully struck with polished dies and specially prepared planchets, creating a level of detail and brilliance unmatched by regular circulation issues. The metal composition of the 1968 Jefferson Nickel remained the classic 5-cent alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving the coin its familiar silvery hue and durability. The coin weighed exactly 5 grams with a diameter of 21.21 millimeters and a plain edge. These technical details may sound simple, but they reflect decades of refinement. The perfect balance between economy, durability, and aesthetics, designed to keep American coinage both functional and beautiful. Examining the design, we see the artistry of Felix Schlag still alive after 3 decades, Jefferson's portrait facing left with calm dignity, his eyes gazing toward the word liberty and the national motto, "In God we trust." The lines of his coat, the soft curls of his hair, and the subtle contour of his face were crafted with remarkable realism on the reverse. Monticello stands as the architectural centerpiece, the word Monticello beneath it, with United States of America and E pluribus unum, completing the patriotic vision by 1968. Minor design changes had smoothed out some details over years of hub design transfers, yet the coin still retained its timeless character. The year 1968 also marked technological advancement at the U.S. Mint as coinage production shifted toward more automated methods and improved die-making processes. The Philadelphia Mint installed new high-speed presses that could strike nickels at incredible rates, ensuring a consistent supply while maintaining quality. This efficiency was essential as America's demand for coinage soared with its rapidly expanding economy and consumer culture. For collectors, the 1968 Jefferson Nickel presents a variety of intriguing details. The circulation strikes from Denver are generally common, but can show notable variations in strike sharpness due to heavy die use. High-grade examples with full steps on Monticello. The lines visible on the building steps are especially prized. By numismatists, the full steps designation is one of the highest indicators of strike quality and precision. A 1968 D nickel with fully defined steps can be rare and command premium values at auction. The Philadelphia coins, though plentiful, are less sharp in detail due to older dies used in production. Still, they represent an important part of the year's output. The San Francisco proof coins, however, are where the artistry shines most. The proof nickels of 1968 are renowned for their mirror, Field's frosted devices, and stunning eye appeal. They were struck twice under carefully controlled pressure, ensuring crisp detail. Each proof set sold directly to collectors became a treasured keepsake, reflecting the Mint's dedication to excellence beyond the minting process. The 1968 nickel holds deeper historical significance. The late 1960s were a time of profound change for the United States. The Vietnam War was ongoing. The civil rights movement continued to shape society, and the nation had just witnessed the assassinations of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. Amidst this turmoil, the everyday nickel represented stability and continuity, an unchanged symbol in a rapidly changing world. When Americans reached into their pockets, they still found Jefferson's calm face a quiet reminder of the nation's enduring ideals. Numismatically, the 1968 nickel bridges the gap between early wartime silver alloy nickels of the 1940s and the modern-clad coinage era that would dominate the following decades. Collectors view it as a transitional issue, a symbol of the Mint's modernization and America's persistence through turbulence over the years. Grading services like PCGs and NGC have authenticated and encapsulated thousands of these coins, with high-grade examples achieving MS66 or MS67 designations, sometimes fetching surprising values among registry set collectors. The proof coins, especially in cameo or deep cameo finish, continue to draw admiration for their beauty. As the years have passed, the 1968 Jefferson Nickel remains a mainstay of American numismatics. It may not be the rarest or most valuable coin in the series, but its story is one of subtle transformation. It marks the rebirth of Mint, marks the rise of proof coin artistry, and the balance between tradition and progress. Every detail on this coin tells a chapter of America's numismatic journey, from design evolution to metallurgical consistency, from production efficiency to cultural endurance. Imagine the journey of one 1968 nickel from the Denver Mint, rolling off the press, bright and new, into bags shipped to banks and businesses, changing hands in grocery stores, gas stations, and diners, each transaction adding tiny marks that tell of everyday American life. Decades later, it may rest in a collector's album, protected and admired, not for its face value, but for the heritage it carries in its metal. And so when we speak of the 1968 Jefferson Nickel, we are not merely talking about a 5-cent piece. We are telling the story of American craftsmanship, of a nation's resilience, and of a design that has stood the test of time since 1938. Felix Schlag's vision of Jefferson and Monticello has endured with minor refinements but unwavering purpose. The 1968 issue embodies that continuity, linking the past and the future through a simple yet powerful symbol. Imagine holding a small piece of American history in your hand, a coin that silently witnessed the pulse of the 1970s, an era of transformation, challenges, and hope. A coin that carries the face of one of the nation's founding fathers, yet hides within it a story of craftsmanship, design, minting, precision, and economic change. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel might look like just another 5-cent piece to the casual eye, but to collectors, historians, and enthusiasts, it represents a fascinating chapter of American minting history. Today we uncover the full journey behind this coin, from its origins to its production, its variations, its hidden details, and the historical context that shaped its existence. Welcome to the world of the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, where every line of metal tells a story and every detail echoes the craftsmanship of a nation's pride. This is not just a coin. This is a time capsule forged in metal, born from America's legacy and crafted in the spirit of Thomas Jefferson himself. To understand the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, we must first travel back to the foundations of its design and the mind that inspired it. Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, was not only a statesman, but a visionary whose passion for science, agriculture, and architecture shaped much of early America. His image was chosen in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, a decision made after a public design competition that forever changed the look of the 5-cent coin. The artist Felix Schlag won this competition, creating a design that depicted Jefferson's left-facing portrait on the obverse and his iconic home Monticello on the reverse. This design became one of the longest-running and most recognizable. In American coinage history, fast forward to 1977, the world was changing, and so was the United States. The economy faced inflation. The American mint was balancing production costs, and the nation's coinage system was adapting to modern technology. Yet the Jefferson nickel remained a steady symbol of stability, unchanged in its core design for decades. The composition of the 1977 nickel was 75% copper and 25% nickel, a durable and reliable blend that had served the country since 1946, after the wartime silver alloy years had ended. During 1977, the coin was struck at 3 major facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark; the Denver Mint, marked with a small D; and the San Francisco Mint, which that year produced only proof coins marked with an S. Each of these mints had their own stories, precision levels, and minting challenges. Philadelphia's presses struck millions of circulating nickels, while Denver ensured distribution across the western states, and San Francisco focused on proof strikes that were polished mirror-like and destined for collectors rather than circulation. Now let's dive deeper into the craftsmanship behind this year's issue. The obverse still carried the classic Jefferson profile, but by 1977, years of dye wear and reworking had subtly changed its appearance. The sharpness of Jefferson's cheekbone, the clarity of his hair details, and the strength of the inscriptions varied slightly from earlier. Years numismatists often study these subtle differences as they tell a story of how the dyes evolved over time. The word Liberty and the date 1977 appear in cursive script designed by Schlag, with a soft, graceful flow. The reverse shows Monticello, centered proudly with the words E pluribus unum above 5 cents and United States of America. Below the architectural detail of Monticello remained an artistic challenge for engravers, as even the slightest dye polishing could blur the building's intricate lines. When studying the 1977 nickel collectors, look for variations in strike, strength dye condition, and luster. Coins from fresh dyes often display sharp detail on Jefferson's hair and strong steps on Monticello. These are known as full-step nickels, and they hold significant value among collectors. Achieving a full-step designation from grading services such as PCGS or NGC can dramatically increase a coin's worth. Full-step nickels from 1977, Denver, are particularly admired as the Denver Mint had higher striking pressure and cleaner dyes than Philadelphia, leading to crisper details. Let's move into the broader picture of America in 1977. Inflation was climbing, consumer confidence was fragile, and the United States Mint was facing budgetary constraints. Yet despite these challenges, it continued to produce billions of circulating coins to fuel the economy. The Jefferson nickel stood as a symbol of consistency, a coin that had weathered wars, recessions, and redesign, proposals, and still carried the timeless face of a founding father. Thomas Jefferson's portrait symbolized intellect, democracy, and balance, ideals that resonated strongly during the uncertain times of the 1970s. Collectors often ask why the Jefferson nickel design remained unchanged for so long. The answer lies in both tradition and practicality. The design had become iconic and was deeply associated with American identity. Furthermore, the cost of retooling new dyes and adjusting production machinery was high during a decade already strained by inflation. The mint instead focused on efficiency, striking more coins faster and with greater consistency. In 1977, over 500 million Jefferson nickels rolled out of the presses, a testament to American industrial capability and precision. Now let's explore how the 1977 nickel fits into the larger timeline of the series between 1938 and 2003. The Jefferson nickel design remained largely untouched except for minor adjustments and refinements. But each decade reflected subtle changes in the minting process. By the 1970s, the mint had transitioned to more advanced die-making technology. This led to variations in texture, luster, and relief height across the coins of that period, while earlier, nickels of the 1940s and 50s often had softer details. The 1977 issues displayed sharper edges and brighter surfaces due to improved die hardening and plancher preparation methods. The proof coins from San Francisco were masterpieces in their own right, produced using highly polished dies and specially treated planchers. These proofs were struck multiple times to bring out the mirror-like fields and frosted devices. Collectors today treasure these coins for their beauty and technical perfection. Each proof nickel captures Jefferson's face with a level of clarity that almost feels lifelike, and Monticello appears as a gleaming miniature monument frozen in metal precision. Beyond the artistry and production, there is the market story of the 1977 nickel in circulated condition. It may seem common, but in uncirculated grades, and especially in full step condition, these coins can fetch significant value. The reason lies in their scarcity. High-quality strikes were less common that year, due to slightly worn dies and heavy production volume, meaning that well-preserved examples are prized today. Coin grading agencies use meticulous criteria to evaluate them, from surface preservation to strike sharpness and luster continuity. Every small mark and every detail matters in determining a coin's grade and ultimately its collector worth. Now step back and imagine the journey of one of these coins from the minting presses of Philadelphia in 1977 to your hands today, a span of nearly half a century. Each scratch and mark tells part of a story. A child's first purchase, a veteran's pocket change, a bus fare on a cold morning in 1983, or a collector's discovery decades later when a simple 5-cent coin became a window into the past. The 1977 Jefferson nickel may seem modest, but its endurance and symbolism connect it directly to the American spirit of progress and preservation. As we approach the later years of the series, it's important to note that the Jefferson nickel's design would eventually change in 2004 as part of the Westward Journey series to commemorate Lewis and Clark's expedition. Yet the 1977 issue remains part of that long, unbroken lineage, a bridge between the classic design era and the modern reinterpretations that followed it. Is the embodiment of mid-century minting perfection. A coin that captures not only a face and a building, but an era of American craftsmanship. For historians, the 1977 nickel represents the mint's balance. Between tradition and technology for collectors, it is a challenge to find pristine examples for casual observers. It is a small but powerful reminder of how even the simplest objects in our pockets hold immense cultural weight. Every Jefferson nickel tells a story, but the 1977 stands as a reflection of the late 20th century itself, resilient, practical, enduring, and unmistakably American. Imagine holding a small piece of American history right in your hand, a simple 5-cent coin that traveled through decades of change, war, progress, and innovation. The 1970 Jefferson nickel might look ordinary, but beneath its silver-gray surface lies a story of transformation from the depths of America's post-war economy to the heart of numismatic fascination. This coin witnessed the dawn of the modern minting era, a shift in metal composition, and the closing chapters of one of the most respected designs in United States coinage history. Welcome to the world of the 1970 Jefferson nickel, a story that's far more valuable than 5 cents. The story of the 1970 Jefferson nickel begins in an era of social change, political reform, and economic adjustment. America in the late 1960s was a nation recovering from the turbulence of civil rights struggles and the space race while preparing for a new decade filled with innovation and transformation. The Jefferson nickel had already been in production for over 3 decades by the time 1970 arrived, first introduced in 1938 as a tribute to the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, and his iconic Monticello estate, designed by Felix Schlag. The coin's imagery reflected both a sense of national pride and neoclassical beauty, representing Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello on the reverse. By 1970, the Jefferson nickel had undergone minor design modifications, but its symbolism remained powerful. The coin still bore the familiar bust of Jefferson facing, left his portrait dignified and calm. The words, "In God we trust and liberty," framed his image, alongside the year 1970. The reverse carried the majestic view of Monticello Jefferson's home in Virginia, with the Latin motto E pluribus unum above the dome and the inscriptions Monticello 5 cents and United States of America below. But behind this familiar look, a silent revolution was occurring at the United States Mint. The 1970 production year marked an important phase in the evolution of coinage technology, quality control, and mint distribution practices. The mint facilities at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were all actively producing Jefferson nickels that year. Yet each facility's output carried subtle differences that collectors today carefully study. The Philadelphia Mint produced no mint mark on its 1970 Jefferson nickels, as was tradition before 1980, while the Denver Mint proudly stamped its coins with a small d below the right side of Monticello. The San Francisco Mint, however, was a different story, altogether producing proof versions of the coin with the distinctive S mint mark meant exclusively for collectors. The 1970 Jefferson nickel had no significant change in composition. It retained the same copper-nickel alloy that had been in place since 1946, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This composition was chosen for durability, appearance, and practicality. The wartime silver nickels of 1942 to 1945 were long gone, replaced by this tougher alloy that could handle the wear of modern circulation. But what makes the 1970 issue fascinating to coin historians and numismatists is not its metal but its context. The late 1960s and early 1970s marked a time when coin collecting reached one of its highest peaks in American history. Millions of people were searching their change daily, hunting for rare mint marks, double dies, and errors. The United States Mint responded by improving die preparation and experimenting with new proofing techniques, especially in San Francisco, where proof coins were struck with high-polished dies and extra care. This made the 1970s proof Jefferson nickel a highlight among proof collectors. With its deep cameo contrasts and mirror-like fields, one of the defining characteristics of the 1970 Jefferson nickel lies in its subtle variations, including small differences in die states and minor minting errors that became collectible treasures. Over the years, coin experts have documented repunched mint marks known as RPMs, especially from the Denver Mint, where the D mark was occasionally struck more than once during the minting process. There are also instances of die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planche between them, leaving ghostly impressions of Jefferson's face, or Monticello faintly visible on the opposite side. These natural mint errors turned otherwise common coins into fascinating study pieces for error specialists. In total, the 1970 production was substantial, with over 515 million Jefferson nickels minted in Denver and more than 370 million in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint struck just over 2 million proof coins for collectors. These figures remind us how widespread the Jefferson nickel was in everyday life. It wasn't just a collectible, it was a working piece of American commerce moving through gas stations, diners, supermarkets, and school vending machines across all 50 states. Yet the historical significance of the 1970 Jefferson nickel goes deeper than circulation. It represents the calm before a major design reevaluation that the United States Mint would undertake in the following decade. As minting technology improved and the bicentennial celebration of 1976 approached, the Mint began considering updates to the Jefferson nickel's design, though these plans didn't come to fruition. Until decades later, the 1970 issue stood as one of the final coins of its era to reflect Schlag's original vision, nearly unchanged. When we explore the proof versions of this coin, we step into the world of mint artistry. Each 1970s proof nickel tells a story of precision craftsmanship. Proof coins were not intended for circulation. They were struck multiple times on specially prepared planches, resulting in sharp details and a mirrored finish. These coins were sold directly to collectors through the United States Mint's annual proof sets. The 1970s proof set also included the Lincoln cent, Roosevelt dime, Washington quarter, and Kennedy half dollar, together forming one of the most admired proof sets of its decade collectors today. Search for the finest examples of these coins graded by professional services such as PCGS and NGCA. Jefferson Nickel, 1970, S-proof. With a perfect deep cameo finish can command impressive prices, especially in PR69 or PR70 condition. While circulation, strikes from Philadelphia and Denver are abundant, their highest mint state examples, especially those free from contact marks and with full steps on Monticello, are highly prized. The full steps designation refers to the clarity of the steps at the base of Monticello. A detail that reflects the precision of the strike coins with this rare feature demonstrate extraordinary minting quality and can be worth far more than their face value. The Jefferson Nickel of 1970 also reflects broader themes of American culture and economy. The 5-cent coin had long symbolized everyday affordability. From buying a soda in the 1950s to paying for a bus fare in the 1970s, this coin connected the lives of millions of Americans. Its design served as a daily reminder of Thomas Jefferson's vision of democracy, education, and independence, a silent tribute to the ideals upon which the nation was built. As we move through the decades, the 1970 Jefferson Nickel continues to find its place in both historical study and hobbyist circles. The coin's endurance through time speaks to the strength of its design and the importance of its message. For over 80 years, the Jefferson Nickel has survived numerous proposals for redesign's composition, changes, and inflationary pressures. Yet the 1970 edition holds a special charm. It is both vintage and modern, a link between the silver-dominated coinage of the early 20th century and the more industrial metal coinage of the modern age, weather. Found shining in an uncirculated roll tucked in a collector's album or resting in the corner of a child's piggy bank, the 1970 Jefferson Nickel carries with it the spirit of its time. It reminds us that even the smallest coin can tell a grand story of American innovation, art, and history. This 5-cent piece is a window into the craftsmanship of the mint, the evolution of technology, and the shared experience of a nation where coins aren't just currency, but symbols of identity. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of American history, a coin that has passed through countless hands, witnessed the changing decades, and still carries the face of one of the most influential figures in the nation's story. Welcome to the fascinating world of the 1991 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but hides a remarkable legacy behind its simple shine. From the very beginning, the Jefferson Nickel was more than just a 5-cent piece. It was a tribute to Thomas Jefferson, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence and the third President of the United States. Introduced in 1938, this coin replaced the long-running Buffalo nickel and brought with it a new artistic identity. Designed by Felix Schlag, whose portrait of Jefferson and depiction of his home Monticello became symbols of American heritage. The 1991 Jefferson Nickel continued that proud lineage, but it arrived in a period of transition and subtle transformation that reflected not just the evolution of minting technology, but also the economic and cultural tone of early 1990s America. The early 90s were a time of optimism mixed with uncertainty. The Cold War had just ended. Technology was rapidly changing. Lives in American coinage was entering a new era of precision and consistency. The 1991 Jefferson Nickel is part of that narrative, minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the typical composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, the same alloy used since the end of World War II. Yet within those standard specifications lies a world of small variations, mint marks, design subtleties, and production numbers that make the 1991 issue a significant chapter for collectors and historians alike. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 635 million pieces, while the Denver Mint produced nearly 475 million, creating a massive circulation. But among them are coins that tell different stories. There are proof versions from the San Francisco Mint crafted with mirror-like surfaces and frosted designs made especially for collectors. These coins show the artistry of American minting at its finest precision, strike smooth edges and a flawless finish that make them stand out in any collection. The 1991 Jefferson Nickel also serves as a bridge between generations of collectors, older enthusiasts who had followed the design since the 30s, and younger numismatists who were just discovering the beauty and complexity of U.S. coinage. In 1991, the portrait of Jefferson had already become one of the most recognizable faces in American money, a symbol of leadership, intellect, and progress. while Monticello, on the reverse, stood as a constant reminder of architecture, innovation, and the pursuit of knowledge. To understand the importance of this coin, one must look beyond its metal value and explore its historical soul. The Jefferson nickel survived the great coin changes of the 60s. It outlived silver withdrawals. It adapted through wars, inflation, and modernization. In 1991, its continued use represented stability in a fast-changing world. When new designs and commemorative coins were being introduced, the Jefferson nickel remained steadfast, familiar, and trusted. Yet the beauty of the 1991 edition also lies in the fine details that are often overlooked. Collectors note the sharpness of the strike, the clarity of the steps on Monticello, known as full steps, a mark of quality that adds significant value to the coin, and the subtle differences in diewear that create varieties sought after by experts. Some rare examples show misstrikes or off-center impressions, while others exhibit unusual toning that can make each coin visually unique. The minting process of 1991 had advanced with better presses and higher quality control. Yet even then, small imperfections made their way into circulation, giving collectors today a fascinating field of study. Each mark, scratch, and die line tells its own story of production and passage through time. To put the 1991 Jefferson nickel in context, we must see how it fits within the broader history of U.S. coinage. The 90s were the final decade before a wave of redesigns struck American currency in the early 2000s, leading to the Westward Journey series and later the modern nickel with a new portrait of Jefferson. The 1991 issue thus stands as one of the last examples of the classic Schlag design before the mint began to experiment with bolder, modern interpretations. It represents the end of an era where craftsmanship and tradition dominated before the dawn of computer-aided designs and digital engraving. From an economic perspective, the nickel in 1991 had already lost much of its original purchasing power. Yet it remained a vital component of everyday commerce and a symbol of the nation's enduring stability. Its simple metallic form connected generations, reminding Americans of shared history even as the world around them modernized rapidly. And from a collector's viewpoint, this coin holds both sentimental and historical value, especially in pristine condition. Mint state examples graded MS65 and above fetch notable interest for their luster-sharp details and preserved history. As we journey deeper into the story of the 1991 Jefferson nickel, we uncover not only the tale of its design and minting, but also its role in American culture and memory. Each coin minted that year was a quiet witness to an age of change, from the rise of computers to shifting economies, from patriotic pride to the enduring fascination with the nation's founding ideals. The Jefferson nickel remains a symbol of durability and design continuity, linking modern America with its historic roots. Whether you hold one in your hand or see it under magnification, you are touching a moment in time, the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint, and the vision of a founding father who still looks proudly across generations. The 1991 Jefferson nickel may not be the rarest coin, but its story is as rich as the metal. It's made from a piece of America that continues to circulate in the pockets of history, whispering tales of progress, heritage, and unity across decades. And as we unfold its journey layer by layer, you will see why this coin is far more than a mere 5 cents. It is a testament to endurance, artistry, and the unbroken legacy of the Jefferson nickel that has defined American coinage for nearly a century. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of American history, a coin that carries the story of war, peace, recovery, and a nation rebuilding itself after global conflict. This is not just any coin. This is the 1946 Jefferson nickel, a piece of metal that marks the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in the story of the United States Mint and the American people. The year was 1946, and the world was just stepping out of the shadows of World War II. The air was filled with the hope of peace. But the scars of the war were still fresh in the memories of millions for the United States Mint. This year meant something very important. It marked the return to the traditional composition of the Jefferson nickel after years of wartime. Experimentation from 1942 to 1945, the Mint had used a special alloy of silver, manganese, and copper to save nickel metal for the war effort. These war nickels carried a distinct look, and even a large mint mark above Monticello to signify their unique composition. But in 1946, things changed. America was moving from war to peace, and with it, the Jefferson Nickel was reborn in its original form. The 1946 Jefferson Nickel was struck in 3 locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but what makes this year remarkable is the symbolic return to the original 75% copper and 25% nickel composition. The same blend that had been used since 1938 when the Jefferson Nickel series was first introduced. This shift back to the pre-war alloy was more than a technical adjustment. It was a message of stability, of recovery, and of the American spirit of normalcy. After the long years of conflict designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson Nickel had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American pockets. The obverse features a proud left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd President of the United States and one of the nation's founding fathers. Schlag's design was chosen in 1938 through a national competition held by the Mint, and his work captured Jefferson's thoughtful and intellectual demeanor. On the reverse side stands Monticello Jefferson's Grand Virginia estate, a neoclassical masterpiece that mirrors the architecture of American ideals, democracy, knowledge, and balance. When production resumed in 1946, the Mint faced the challenge of refining its machinery. After years of using different alloys, the pre-war copper-nickel blend was harder and more durable than the wartime silver alloy. So new adjustments had to be made to ensure that every strike captured the fine details of Schlag's design. Many 1946 nickels from the early production runs show signs of weak strikes, particularly on Jefferson's hair details and the steps of Monticello. This was due to worn dies and technical readjustments. But as the year progressed, quality improved and later strikes became sharper and more detailed. In terms of mintages, the 1946 nickel saw massive production as the economy surged with post-war optimism. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 161 million coins. The Denver Mint added about 45 million, and the San Francisco Mint contributed roughly 13 million. This total of over 219 million nickels ensured that the 1946 issue circulated widely across the country. Yet among these millions of coins, collectors today still search for those special pieces with full steps on Monticello, a mark of a well-struck example that reveals all 6 steps at the base of Jefferson's. Home full-step nickels from 1946 are rare, especially from the San Francisco Mint, and these coins command a premium in the numismatic market. Now let's step back and look at the historical context. The United States in 1946 was a country in transformation. Soldiers were returning home from battle, industries were shifting from weapons to consumer goods, and the American dream was being rewritten. Factories that once built tanks were now building cars and homes. The coinage of 1946 reflected this new era. Every Jefferson nickel struck that year carried with it the weight of victory and the promise of peace. These coins moved through the hands of citizens buying their first post-war cup of coffee, paying bus fares in booming cities, and being saved by collectors who saw in them a symbol of a new beginning. The Mint itself was undergoing modernization in 1946. It was still using traditional press machines, but was preparing for the technological improvements that would define the 1950s. The need for efficiency, precision, and mass production had grown dramatically during the war, and now those innovations were being redirected to serve a thriving consumer economy. The Jefferson Nickel stood at the crossroads of this evolution, a small, durable coin made not for war, but for prosperity. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 1946 nickel is how it bridged 2 ages. The war nickels of 1942 through 1945 with their silver content are a distinct subset in the series, and the 1946 issue marked a return to normalcy. Collectors often see the 1946 coin as the first of the post-war nickels, a transitional symbol representing both the past and the future in the numismatic community. It is appreciated not only for its metallic composition, but also for its historical meaning. In terms of design modifications, nothing major changed in 1946. Schlag's design remained consistent, but minor die variations have been recorded by experts in the field. These include differences in the size of the letters in the motto and variations in the strike of Monticello's dome. Advanced collectors often spend years searching for these die varieties, and grading services like PCGS and NGC recognize full-step examples as elite pieces worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on mint and condition. Beyond its numismatic value, the 1946 Jefferson nickel is also a cultural artifact. It represents the ideals of Jefferson himself, a man who believed in education, science, architecture, and democracy. His image on the coin serves as a daily reminder of those values during a time when America was redefining its place in the world. Coins are not just money. They are miniature history books carrying symbols, ideals, and the heartbeat of a nation. As the years passed, millions of 1946 nickels continued to circulate through the 1950s and 1960s, but as the designs aged and the dies wore down, the mint began to consider design updates. By the 1960s and 1970s. Jefferson's portrait would be refined, but the 1946 issue remains pure to Schlag's original artistic vision. Today, collectors seek high-grade examples preserved in mint-state condition coins that never entered circulation and still gleam with the original luster of post-war America. The 1946 Jefferson nickel tells us much about resilience and recovery. It reminds us that even after years of global turmoil, nations can rebuild and find balance again, and that sometimes the smallest objects like a 5-cent piece can tell. The greatest stories, from the war effort's silver alloys to the post-war copper-nickel restoration, from the quiet craftsmanship of Felix Schlag to the massive presses of the United States Mint. The 1946 Jefferson nickel embodies the story of America's comeback. All right, imagine holding a simple 5-cent coin in your hand, one that millions of Americans have used to buy a cup of coffee or a morning newspaper. But what if I told you that the 1981 Jefferson nickel hides a story of America's transformation? In metal design, politics, and economy, this is not just a coin, it's a time capsule of a nation on the edge of technological advancement and shifting monetary values. Welcome back to the channel where coins speak history. Today, we are unlocking the untold secrets of the 1981 Jefferson nickel. A coin that looks ordinary, but carries layers of historical depth that will surprise even seasoned collectors, from the portrait of Thomas Jefferson to the shimmering alloy that represents America's post-war minting legacy. Every scratch, every detail on this nickel has something to say, and by the end of this journey, you'll never look at a small 5-cent piece the same way again. The Jefferson nickel, first struck in 1938, replaced the buffalo nickel and was designed by sculptor Felix Schlag. His winning design featured a left-facing bust of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, known for drafting the Declaration of Independence and for his neoclassical architectural vision that shaped Monticello, Jefferson's home, which proudly adorns the reverse of the coin for decades. This design stayed consistent, symbolizing American stability through war, peace, and progress. By the time the 1981 nickel was minted, the United States had seen incredible transformation. The Cold War loomed large. Inflation was rising, and the U.S. Mint was adapting to new industrial standards that affected not only production, but also the physical feel and appearance of the nation's circulating coinage. The composition of the 1981 Jefferson nickel followed the standard 75% copper and 25% nickel alloy, a metallic partnership that gave the coin its durability and distinct silver-gray luster, weighing exactly 5 grams with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters. The nickel had become a precise piece of American engineering. By the early 80s, the minting process had become more efficient and precise, using improved die technology and higher-speed presses that ensured consistency across millions of coins produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The Philadelphia mint coins carried no mint mark. The Denver ones were marked with a small D, and the San Francisco mint produced proof coins with a distinctive S mark that collectors cherished for their mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. To understand the 1981 Jefferson nickel, we have to look at the economic landscape of the time. The early 1980s were marked by recession, high unemployment, and a dollar struggling against inflation. The U.S. Mint faced the challenge of maintaining production quality while keeping costs low. Nickel metal prices fluctuated, and debates surfaced about whether to alter the composition of smaller denominations to cheaper alternatives. Yet the Jefferson nickel survived unchanged, proving its importance in the American pocket economy. It remained a coin of reliability at a time when other denominations were being reimagined for efficiency and cost. The obverse design of the 1981 nickel retained the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, facing left with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1981 carefully engraved around his profile, the mint mark appeared to the right of Jefferson's ponytail. The lettering was clear-balanced and slightly modernized through dye refinements that improved readability and detail under magnification. You could see sharper hairlines and deeper relief compared to earlier decades, showing the mint's efforts. To perfect even the most familiar designs, the reverse of the coin displayed Monticello Jefferson's home in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the inscriptions A Pluribus Unum, Monticello 5 cents, and United States of America, forming a harmonious balance of architecture and text. What makes the 1981 Jefferson nickel particularly interesting to collectors today is its position as one of the last coins before a major design refresh and technical evolution. The mint was preparing for a new era that would bring laser-engraved dies, digital design aids, and improved proof striking techniques. The 1981 proof nickels struck at the San Francisco Mint are famous for their deep cameo contrast, where Jefferson's frosted portrait seems to rise from a pool of mirror-like brilliance. These coins were produced in limited numbers and sold to collectors in special proof sets. Their sharpness and clarity make them among the most beautiful Jefferson nickels ever made, and their condition today can significantly influence their value. When it comes to value, circulation strikes from Philadelphia and Denver remain common, with hundreds of millions minted but uncirculated examples with full steps on Monticello. The tiny staircase detail visible on the reverse are prized by collectors. A full steps designation means that the strike was so crisp that the architectural detail remained completely visible without wear or weakness. Coins with full steps can fetch many times the face value, especially in high mint state grades certified by grading companies like PCG's and NGC proof coins from San Francisco. Especially those in perfect PR70 deep cameo condition can reach even higher prices due to their scarcity and visual perfection. Jefferson Nickel series also plays an important role in American numismatics, as one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history, lasting from 1938 through the early 2000s. With only minor variations, the 1981 issue thus stands as a midpoint, bridging classic hand-engraved artistry and the computer-assisted age that followed it. Represents a moment of balance between old craftsmanship and new technology. A true symbol of a mint and a nation evolving, yet rooted in its traditions. Each, 1981. Nickel tells a story from the smelters that refined its metal to the dies that stamped Jefferson's face, from the mint workers who ensured every detail was precise to the countless hands through which it passed in everyday transactions. It's a witness to American life at the dawn of a new decade. The factories, the gas stations, the diners, the schools, everywhere, this little coin carried value and meaning. As we close this deep dive, remember that coins, like the 1981 Jefferson nickel, are not just currency. They are storytellers. They speak of history, leadership, craftsmanship, and continuity. Every coin is a living link to a past moment, and this one in particular holds the voice of a nation standing resilient amid change. So next time you come across a simple nickel from 1981, hold it close and know that you're holding a small but enduring piece of America's unfolding story.